The text came through at 2 a.m. while I was on assignment in Seattle. Mom, finally did something about that house of yours. You're welcome. I stared at the message on my phone, lying in the darkness of my hotel room. The house. My house in Alexandria. The 3-bedroom colonial I'd bought 2 years ago. The property I'd carefully selected because it was 15 minutes from the federal courthouse and 20 minutes from my office at the U.S. Marshals Service headquarters. Me, what do you mean, did something about it? Mom sold it. You were never there anyway. Always traveling for that job of yours. The money will help your sister with her wedding. I sat up so fast I nearly dropped my phone. Me, you sold my house. Mom, don't be dramatic. We have your power of attorney from when you were overseas. We used it. The house was just sitting empty. $850,000 cash. Your father and I split it with Rachel for her wedding expenses. You can thank us at the reunion next week. My hands were shaking. Power of attorney. From when I was deployed to Afghanistan 6 years ago before I joined the Marshals Service. A document I'd forgotten to revoke when I returned stateside. Me. Mom, you need to stop the sale immediately. Mom, it's done. Closed yesterday. Stop being selfish. Family helps family. I immediately called my supervisor, Deputy Chief Marshal James Crawford. He answered on the third ring, his voice rough with sleep. Mitchell, this is the middle of the night. Sir, we have a problem. My family just sold my house in Alexandria. There was a pause. Your house. The safe house. Yes, sir. Jesus Christ. The one we've been using for witness protection. Sir. For the Castellano case. Another pause, longer this time. How long ago? They closed yesterday. I just found out. Who's in the house now? According to the protection details last report, Angela Moretti and her 2 children. They're scheduled to be there for another 3 weeks before relocation. And your family sold a federal safe house to who? I don't know yet, sir. Mitchell, get back to DC immediately. I'm activating the emergency response team. We need to relocate the Morettis and figure out what the hell just happened. I caught the first flight out of Seattle. By the time I landed at Reagan National, it was 10 a.m. and my phone had 17 new messages from my mother. All variations of, "Why are you being so dramatic?" and "You're ruining Rachel's wedding." I ignored them all and drove straight to my office at the U.S. Marshals Service headquarters in Arlington. Deputy Chief Crawford was waiting in the secure conference room with 3 other senior marshals and our legal counsel. Mitchell. Crawford gestured to a chair. Sit. Tell us everything. I explained the power of attorney, my parents' access to it, the sale of the house without my knowledge or consent. As I spoke, I watched their expressions shift from concerned to furious. Let me make sure I understand, legal counsel Patricia Williams said slowly. Your parents sold a property that's been registered as a federal safe house for the past 18 months. A property currently housing a protected witness and her family in the Castellano organized crime case. A property with an active protection detail. And they did this without notifying anyone. Yes, ma'am. Who bought the house? I don't know yet. My mother mentioned $850,000 cash, which is significantly below market value for that property. Crawford's jaw tightened. An $850,000 cash sale for a house worth at least $2.8 million. That's either incompetence or something worse. Williams pulled up something on her laptop. I'm looking at the property records now. The sale went through a company called Riverside Holdings LLC. Does that mean anything to you? No, ma'am. She typed rapidly. Riverside Holdings is a shell company. Registered in Delaware. Owners. Concealed through multiple layers. Mitchell, this wasn't a normal real estate transaction. The room went cold. You're saying someone targeted that specific property, I said quietly. I'm saying someone paid cash below market value for a house that happens to be sheltering a witness against the Castellano crime family. That's not a coincidence. Crawford stood abruptly. We need to move the Morettis immediately. Mitchell, you're coming with me. Williams, start the investigation into Riverside Holdings. I want to know who owns it and how they knew about that house. We arrived at the Alexandria house with a full tactical team. The protection detail, Marshals Rodriguez and Chin, met us at the door, both looking confused. Sir, what's going on? Rodriguez asked. We weren't notified of any schedule changes. The house was sold, Crawford said flatly. Without authorization. We're evacuating the witnesses now. Rodriguez's hand moved to his weapon. Sold? How? Family issues, I said quietly. Is Mrs. Moretti inside? With both kids. They're having lunch. We entered quickly. Angela Moretti looked up from the kitchen table where she sat with her 8-year-old daughter and 6-year-old son. Her face went pale when she saw the number of marshals. What happened? Did they find us? No, ma'am, Crawford said. But we're moving you as a precaution. You have 10 minutes to pack essentials. Marshal Rodriguez will help you. Angela stood shakily. But you said we'd be safe here. You said. I know what we said, Mrs. Moretti. And I apologize. There's been a complication with the property. We're taking you somewhere more secure. As Rodriguez helped Angela gather their belongings, Crawford turned to me. Your parents. Where are they now? Family reunion. My uncle's farm in Pennsylvania. They're expecting me there tomorrow. Change of plans. We're going today. Bring a recorder. We need to document everything they say. We drove to Pennsylvania in a convoy of 3 unmarked vehicles. Crawford, myself, Marshall Williams from our legal team, and 4 tactical support agents. My uncle's farm sat on 50 acres of rolling hills outside Harrisburg. By the time we arrived, it was late afternoon and the reunion was in full swing. Cars lined the long driveway. Children played in the yard. The smell of barbecue drifted from the back patio. My mother stood near the grill holding court with my aunts, laughing at something. She spotted me and waved enthusiastically. Then she saw the people with me, all in suits, all wearing badges, and her smile faltered. Sarah? What's going on? I walked across the lawn with Crawford beside me. My father emerged from the house, beer in hand. My sister Rachel appeared from around the corner, her fiancé trailing behind her. Mom, Dad, I said carefully. We need to talk about the house. Oh, for heaven's sake, my mother said. Are you still upset about that? Sir, we did you a favor. That house was a federal safe house, I interrupted. That house was being used by the U.S. Marshal Service to protect a witness and her children in an active organized crime investigation. The laughter died. My mother's face went white. What? The house in Alexandria. The one you sold without my permission. It wasn't just my house. It was registered as federal property being used for witness protection. My father set down his beer slowly. That's impossible. You said you worked in office administration. You said. I'm a deputy U.S. Marshal, I said. I have been for 4 years. That house was purchased specifically because of its location and security features. It's been sheltering a protected witness for 18 months. Crawford stepped forward, holding up his badge. Deputy Chief Marshal James Crawford. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, you've sold federal property without authorization. More critically, you've potentially compromised an active witness protection case. My mother grabbed my father's arm. We didn't know. Sarah, you never told us. I couldn't tell you. Operational security means I don't discuss active cases or safe house locations with anyone outside the service. But you should have asked me before selling my property. We had power of attorney. That power of attorney was for emergencies during my military deployment 6 years ago. It was never meant to give you authority to sell my house. Rachel pushed forward. Sarah, Mom and Dad were just trying to help. They got me $400,000 for my wedding. Surely you can't be upset about. Your wedding money came from an illegal sale of federal property, I said flatly. That money is going to be seized as proceeds from a crime. Crime. My father's voice went loud. Now wait just a minute. We didn't commit any crime. We sold your house that you never used. You're always traveling, always busy with work, never around for family. What were we supposed to think? You were supposed to think that selling someone else's property without their explicit permission is illegal. Federal property makes it worse. Marshal Williams stepped forward. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, I'm with the Legal Counsel's Office for the U.S. Marshals Service. The house you sold was legally owned by your daughter but registered as federal property for witness protection purposes. The sale of that property without authorization violates 18 U.S.C. Section 1512, tampering with a witness. Additionally, because the sale was conducted using fraudulent authority. We weren't being fraudulent, my mother cried. We had the power of attorney. That you knew was outdated and no longer applicable, Williams continued. And the fact that you sold it significantly below market value to a shell company raises additional questions. Shell company? My father frowned. We sold it to a nice couple through a real estate agent. They paid cash. $850,000. The buyers used a shell company called Riverside Holdings, I said. Do you know who they actually were? Some investors. The agent said they wanted it as a rental property. An $850,000 cash purchase for a house worth $2.8 million didn't seem suspicious to you? My mother's voice went shrill. We're not real estate experts. The agent said it was a fair price for a quick cash sale. Crawford's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening. Mitchell, I need to speak with you. Privately. We stepped away from my family. Crawford turned his phone screen toward me. It showed a photo of two men. One I didn't recognize, one I definitely did. Vincent Castellano Jr. The son of the mob boss whose operation Angela Moretti was testifying against. Riverside Holdings, Crawford said quietly. Shell company owned by the Castellano family. They bought your house. They knew it was a safe house. My blood went cold. How? We're still investigating. But they paid cash below market value, probably to make it attractive for a quick sale. Your parents' greed made them an easy target. I turned back to my family. They stood in a cluster now. Mom, Dad, Rachel, her fiancé, my uncle, 3 aunts, 2 cousins. All watching with varying expressions of confusion and fear. Who approached you about selling the house? I asked. What? My mother blinked. The real estate agent. Linda something. She said she had buyers ready. You didn't list the house. How did she know you had access to it? He called. Said she'd heard we had property in Alexandria we might want to sell. How did she hear that? My mother and father exchanged glances. I might have mentioned it at the country club. I was talking about Rachel's wedding expenses, and someone suggested we had assets we could liquidate. I mentioned you had that house you never used. Crawford closed his eyes briefly. Mrs. Mitchell, you discussed your daughter's property, federal property, at a country club. In front of how many people? I don't know. It was just conversation. Just friends. Those friends told someone. That someone told the Castellanos. And the Castellanos sent a fake agent to convince you to sell them the safe house. My father's face had gone gray. You're saying we helped the mob? Unknowingly, Williams said. But yes. You sold them direct access to a protected witness. Rachel grabbed my arm. Sarah, we didn't know. You have to believe us. We would never. You would never ask before making major decisions about my property, I said, pulling away. You would never respect that I might have reasons for privacy. You would never consider that my work might be more important than you assumed. That's not fair. Isn't it? You took my wedding money, didn't you? $400,000 from the sale. For what? Bigger venue? A fancier dress? Rachel's face flushed. Mom and Dad offered. They said you owed us. You're never around, never involved in family stuff. They said this was your contribution. My contribution was buying a house that happened to save 3 lives. Angela Moretti and her 2 children are alive because they were in that safe house instead of their apartment when the Castellanos sent men to kill them. That was my contribution to something that actually mattered. The silence stretched across the lawn. In the distance, children still played, unaware of what was unfolding. Crawford's phone buzzed again. He answered, spoke briefly, then ended the call. Morettis are secure in a new location. The house in Alexandria is being swept for surveillance devices. And we have a warrant. He nodded to the tactical agents. 2 of them approached my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, we have a warrant to seize all proceeds from the sale of the Alexandria property. That includes bank accounts, cash, and any assets purchased with those funds. My mother stumbled backward. Seize? You can't, that's our money. It's proceeds from the illegal sale of federal property, Williams said. Additionally, you're both being charged with 18 U.S.C. Section 1512, witness tampering, and 18 U.S.C. Section 641, theft of government property. You'll need to come with us for formal processing. Sarah. My father turned to me, his face desperate. Sarah, stop this. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them we didn't mean any harm. I looked at him for a long moment. Dad, you sold a safe house to the mob. Whether you meant harm or not, you endangered 3 lives. I can't stop this. I wouldn't stop this if I could. We're your parents. And Angela Moretti is a mother with 2 children who watched her husband murdered by the Castellanos. Your actions almost got her killed too. So no, I'm not stopping this. My parents were taken into custody that evening. Rachel's bank accounts were frozen. The $400,000 wedding fund seized as evidence. Her fiancé left 2 days later, claiming he needed time to think. The investigation into Riverside Holdings led to the arrest of 3 Castellano associates and exposed a network of corrupt real estate agents being used to track federal properties. The mob had been systematically trying to identify safe houses across the eastern seaboard. My parents' carelessness had given them exactly what they wanted. Angela Moretti and her children were relocated to a secure facility out of state. She testified successfully against Vincent Castellano Sr. He's now serving life in federal prison. His son Vincent Jr. got 20 years for witness tampering and related charges. My parents faced trial 6 months later. They were convicted of witness tampering and theft of government property. Dad got 4 years federal prison. Mom got 3 years plus 2 years supervised release. The judge was clear. Ignorance wasn't an excuse when their actions nearly cost 3 lives. Rachel lost everything: her wedding fund, her venue deposit, her fiancé, her reputation. Last I heard, she'd moved to Oregon to live with our aunt. I visited my parents once before they went to prison. They sat across from me in the federal holding facility, both wearing orange jumpsuits, both looking a decade older than they had at the reunion. "Sarah," my mother whispered. "Please. Can't you do something? Talk to someone? Your father's health." "Mom, I'm a deputy marshal. I can't interfere with a federal prosecution. You know that. But we're family. Family respects boundaries. Family asks permission. Family doesn't sell each other's houses to mobsters." My father's hands shook on the table. "We didn't know they were mobsters. We didn't know it was a safe house. We didn't know any of it because you never told us what you really do. I couldn't tell you. And clearly I was right not to trust you with sensitive information. Look what you did with basic property ownership." "So this is our punishment?" my mother asked. "Prison? Because we tried to help our daughter with her wedding? You tried to help yourself to money that wasn't yours. Angela Moretti is alive because we evacuated her in time. If the Castellanos had gotten to her first, if she and her children had been killed, you'd be facing murder charges. 4 years in prison is getting off light." My father's face crumpled. "When you get out, will you? Will I what? Forgive you? Welcome you back to family dinners? Pretend this never happened? We're your parents, Sarah. You were my parents. Now you're federal inmates who compromised a witness protection case because you were too selfish and too careless to ask a simple question before selling my house." I stood up. "I hope you use your time in prison to think about consequences. Real consequences, not just what happens to you, but what could have happened to 3 innocent people because of your actions." 2 years later, I received a letter from my mother. She'd been transferred to a minimum security facility in West Virginia. The letter was 8 pages of apologies, explanations, justifications. She missed me. She wanted to make things right. She'd learned her lesson. I read it once, then filed it with the case documents. Deputy Chief Crawford found me in my office later that day. "Heard your mother reached out. She wants reconciliation. You going to give it to her?" I thought about Angela Moretti, who'd sent me a Christmas card last year with a photo of her kids. They were smiling. They were alive. They were safe because I'd moved fast enough to get them out of that house. "No," I said. "I'm not. Family's important, Mitchell. So is doing your job right. So is protecting people who can't protect themselves. So is maintaining boundaries with people who've proven they can't be trusted." Crawford nodded slowly. "Fair enough. For what it's worth, you handled this situation with more professionalism than I would have managed." "It wasn't personal, sir. Wasn't it?" I met his gaze. "It was absolutely personal. But that doesn't change the fact that they broke federal law and endangered federal witnesses. Personal feelings don't override duty." "No," he agreed. "They don't. My parents were released from federal prison 18 months ago. Mom served her full sentence. Dad got out 2 months early for good behavior. They moved to Florida, away from the judgmental whispers of their Pennsylvania community. They've written to me periodically. Cards on my birthday. Emails on holidays. Each one asks for a chance to talk, to explain, to rebuild. I haven't responded to any of them. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday enough time will pass that I can separate who they were from what they did. Maybe someday I'll be able to sit across from them without seeing Angela Moretti's terrified face when we evacuated the safe house. But not today. Today I have a job to do. Witnesses to protect. Cases to build. People who depend on the U.S. Marshals Service to keep them safe from the criminals who want them dead. And I can't do that job if I'm wasting energy on family members who valued $850,000 more than they valued respecting my boundaries, my property, or the lives of 3 people they'd never met. So I keep working. I keep protecting witnesses. I keep maintaining the professional standards that my parents' actions nearly destroyed. And if that makes me cold, if that makes me unforgiving, if that makes me a bad daughter, I can live with that. Angela Moretti's children are alive. That matters more than my parents' feelings. It always will.